Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land and hosted by me, Rolene Marks. Now, apologies that there was no brief yesterday. As I mentioned earlier this week, I was attending the World Wheat Sow meeting of representatives, and yesterday was a touring day, which was phenomenal for us. However, it didn't allow me any time to do our daily Israel Brief, so I'm going to make it up to you today and bring you those top stories before we head into the weekend. And we begin with the biggest story right here in Israel, and that is yesterday's ruling by the Supreme Court in a ruling of 10 judges to 1 that Deri, who was tipped to be the Minister of Economy, cannot serve as a minister in the government, and this is due to his repeated criminal charges. And the response to this has been, as you can imagine, quite a flurry of activity. The Attorney General recommends that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu fire Deri as a minister in his government. Meanwhile, yesterday the Prime Minister went to meet with Deri shortly after the ruling was given, and it is believed that he appealed to Deri to resign. Meanwhile, this has raised many questions. What will happen to the coalition? Will Shas pull out? Will this accelerate the intentions to reform the Supreme Court? What will this mean? So the next couple of days are going to be crucial as we watch how things maneuver around the ruling. Meanwhile, the far-right parties have said that Deri should defy the ruling. Now, what happens to Deri's portfolio, everybody wants to know. Well, I'll tell you, it automatically reverts to the Prime Minister. However, there have been calls from some elements in the government to make Deri alternate Prime Minister. I think that they maybe missed the point of the ruling, which was that he cannot serve as a minister in the government. We've been speaking over the last couple of weeks about the United Nations General Assembly resolution that recommends that the International Court of Justice be able to weigh in on issues such as occupation, settlements, and annexation. Now, those aren't my words. Those are the words as written in the resolution. This passed by a vast majority, and we also brought you the story earlier this week that at least 90 countries have written a letter to Israel appealing that no matter where they sit regarding this resolution, that Israel lifts sanctions that the country has put in place against the Palestinian Authority. Meanwhile, yesterday in a routine hearing at the United Nations Security Council on the situation between Israel and the Palestinians, the UN envoy to the Middle East, Tor Wennesland, warned of impending escalation. However, the Israeli and Palestinian ambassadors traded jabs at each other. Gilad Erdan, the Israeli ambassador, accused the Palestinians of waging a jihad war on multi-levels, and also said that their false accusations of victimhood have run its course and that they are responsible for the incitement and the murder and the terrorism committed against Israelis. Not to be outdone, his counterpart Riyad Mansour gave his rebuttal, saying that Israel wants to go towards peace by crushing the Palestinians, and condemned Israel's current government. Of course, we will be following any movements by the International Criminal Court to weigh in on issues around Israel and the Palestinians, and whether or not they actually have jurisdiction to give their opinions. The New York Times is certainly no friend of Israel, and one of their foremost opinion writers, Thomas Friedman, who is a Pulitzer Prize winner, has written a very controversial op-ed yesterday appealing to President Biden to, quote-unquote, save Israel from itself. Now, he cited, amongst other issues, concerns about the proposed reforms to the Supreme Court. However, maybe to couch the accusation of interfering in another country's domestic issues. He said that Prime Minister Netanyahu and his ambassador to the United States, Ron Dermer, during the lead up to the Prime Minister's 2015 address to Congress, had engineered his speech to go against the Obama administration's agenda at the time, saying that this was Netanyahu's attempt to interfere and put a Republican in the White House. Now, we just want to remind Mr. Friedman that interference by any country in any other country's domestic policy is highly frowned upon. And today we end our show off not with a feel-good story, but one that really brings an element of sadness and is a great loss to our world, and that is the passing of Holocaust educator Ziggy Schipper. Ziggy passed away yesterday on his 93rd birthday. Now, so many around the world are familiar with Ziggy and his best friend Manfred Goldberg. The two had been in concentration camp Stutthof during the Second World War and had spent time in the Auschwitz-Birkenau death camp. They were liberated and brought to the United Kingdom as part of the Windermere children and held a lifelong, very, very close friendship. Yesterday, tributes from all over the world poured in for Schipper. There were tributes in the UK Parliament and from an unlikely but very, very close friend, the Princess of Wales, and her husband, the Prince of Wales, that is Prince William, and his wife, Catherine. Now, they had met Schipper at Stutthof concentration camp in 2017, but the princess has done a significant amount of work over the years in Holocaust education and working with survivors, and had formed quite a close friendship with both Ziggy and Manfred. Who can forget their Zoom in 2020 marking Holocaust Remembrance Day? Prime Minister Rishi Sunak paid tribute to Ziggy in the Parliament by saying we must remember Ziggy's words of "we must not hate." And I want to leave you with another quote from Ziggy, who said, "We cannot make the past right, but what we can do is make the future right." And we say our blessing that may his soul, may the memory of Ziggy be eternally blessed, and our thoughts and our prayers are with his family and loved ones, and of course with his best friend Manfred. So that's all for today. And don't forget, if you are wanting to read our original online content, and we've got a whole whack of new content, our website is www.layoftheland.online. Our Facebook community is at Lartle's site. Like us, follow us, share our content. Our YouTube channel is at The Israel Brief. If you haven't already subscribed, please click the red subscribe button and like and share our content. And we're on Twitter at Lay of the Land 5. I'm Rolene Marks, wishing you all Shabbat Shalom, a peaceful, a safe, and a wonderful weekend. And I'll be back on Monday with The Israel Brief and your top stories.